Good evening, everyone. We are here, and I believe that it's that time. Welcome to 2025 World Bipolar Day Conference. Now, whether you are part of the Bipolar UK community or you are joining us for the very first time, thank you so much for being here. My name's Leah Charles-King. I'm a proud ambassador for Bipolar UK for the last 7 years, and it's been an absolute honor to host this conference for the 5th year running. Now, it's absolutely one of my most important dates in my calendar, not just because of the event itself, but because of what it represents: connection, community, and change. And this year's theme, well, it's a big one. It's stigma. Stigma is a barrier. It's incredibly dangerous, actually, because stigma stops people from getting help, from living openly, and from being seen for who they really are. It exists in healthcare, in families, in the workplace, and stigma, it almost cost me my life, actually. The first stigma I experienced was in healthcare. And at the time, I didn't know what it was that I was experiencing. I just knew that I was unwell and I had all these symptoms and that no one would listen to me, it seemed. And I went to at least 6 or 7 different GPs sharing my symptoms of mania and depression and a mixture of both. And they all told me relatively similar things. Things like, well, you seem fine. And, you're quite articulate. You're very self-aware. Because of those things, yeah, I'm not sure about that. Maybe you're a little bit depressed. Keep taking these antidepressants. I suggest you try and be a bit stronger, some GPs told me. And those words, some of them seemingly harmless, they were loaded. What I've learned since is that medical racism played a major role there, certainly in my story. And there's a persistent belief that Black people are stronger or don't feel emotional pain in the same way. A major review that our government in the UK did found that Black people in the UK are 4 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act. And actually, in places like America, you will find that there are similar statistics when it comes to Black and other marginalized groups. We, as the Black community, are more likely to be misdiagnosed, over medicated, or simply ignored. That's not an opinion, that's fact. Now, eventually, the only way that I was taken seriously was actually by handing one of those GPs a suicide note. And that's what it took for someone to finally listen, because suddenly policy and the law kicked in with this note. It wasn't a threat. It was my last ditch attempt. I'd already tried to take my own life on several occasions, and I was tired. I was really tired. And it was really difficult when you're going to the people who are your primary caregivers and you think that you're going to get that support, and you're dismissed all the time and told that it's all in your head and it's impossible that you could have bipolar. And but that's what it finally took. It took for them they had to, at that point, call an ambulance. And that started the chain of events that led me to a diagnosis that I clearly desperately needed, because I believe without that, I wouldn't be here. It just wouldn't happen. Even now, though, I still encounter stigma in healthcare. And when I speak about bipolar, the tone changes. So if I'm speaking about another health issue, it's fine. But when I speak about bipolar, the pace suddenly slows, and suddenly I'm spoken to like I'm incapable, like my diagnosis defines my intelligence somehow. And when the system failed me, I then turned to the people that I love most. And in this case, my parents. I remember standing there, actually. I remember where I was and when it was. And I said to my parents, particularly my dad, I said, I think I have bipolar. Like Stacey Slater in EastEnders, for any of you who watch EastEnders or knows that storyline. And their response was met with things like, well, don't say that. Don't say that. they couldn't take it in because in our community, in the Black community, mental illness is not something that is spoken about. And in fact, you'll find that in a lot of marginalized communities, it's the same. It's taboo. It's a secret. It's dirty. We don't. It's embarrassing. It's shame. It's a smear on your family and your family name, and it's something that you just don't want to bring about. And it was something as well that some people feel like you could just pray away if you have faith, or if you're religious, that you could just pray away. And my own parents said, well, Leah, you don't have bipolar. Don't be silly. You're just being Leah. And by the way, pre-bipolar Leah, that wasn't a flex, okay? That wasn't a compliment. Pre-bipolar diagnosis Leah, I mean, um, meant that she was difficult and she was too much and she was forthright and she was very hard to handle. And so, again, it was just a dismissal of, well, that's just how you are and who you are. And as much as that hurt, I now understand that their response was, it came from a place of fear and a lack of knowledge. And I just want to be clear, by the way, my parents are watching tonight from Grenada, and they know that I'm sharing this. They know that I speak about this openly because things have changed between us. And that's why I think it's really important to share that part of the story. They're much more patient and supportive, and definitely, definitely they're there for me a lot more. And my dad especially believes that it's important that other parents hear the other side to the story as well. And he wants you to know that change is possible and that it takes honesty, time, and ongoing effort. Because even though you may have a grown-up child, like I was grown up, I was in my 30s when I was diagnosed. I'm still their child. And for them, it was really difficult for them to get their head around. But obviously, I'm the person going through it. And I was the one that suffered, and I suffered alone because of it. Now, that rejection just pushed me further into silence, which then led into the hardest battle of all. Okay. And that was self-stigma. So I've dealt with stigma in the healthcare system, stigma within my own family. And now I've got this diagnosis. And oh my God, nobody can stigmatize me more than I stigmatize myself. I was diagnosed in 2012. For 7 years, I didn't really tell many people. I told selected people, even though I've got a really good friendship group. I was very selective, and actually, I found it was easier to tell strangers or newer friends if I was making any than it was to actually tell existing friends, because I was just, again, the stigma ruled everything. You know, what are these people going to think of me? I was just absolutely ashamed. And I thought to myself, will I ever work again? Will anyone ever love me? Will I be in a relationship? I'm broken. My life is over. And actually, they weren't questions, they were statements, because that's what stigma does. It makes you believe all these untruths. And those thoughts, they weren't mine. They were all planted by stigma, and they festered and they stopped me from healing, and they made me feel like I didn't deserve that support or success. And eventually I was tired and I had enough, and I just said, you know, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I'd done at that point a lot of sort of healing work on myself, and I've gotten stronger in my faith again, and I was actually doing quite well. My star was back on the rise, my career was on the up, but I was hiding who I really was. And therefore, I believe that when you're doing that and you're not being your authentic self, my personal opinion is that I'm not sure you can fully heal. And I wanted to fully heal. I wanted to be as authentic and as strong within having this infliction that the world saw it as. I wanted to show them something else. I didn't want to be a statistic. And so in 2019, I came out publicly. I wrote a note online and I screamed as I pressed that button. But when I did it, it was the final chain I needed to break. And once I did that, it changed everything. I've never looked back. And even after that, though, the stigma didn't vanish. It just showed up in new places, especially in relationships. There were friends who would weaponize my diagnosis, and there were partners who, by the way, old friends, very old friends, and there were who are no longer around, and there were partners also no longer around who also stayed around long enough to use my bipolar against me. People who assumed that every day was a down day because of mental illness. And for a while, I believed I had to accept that. I thought I was lucky if anyone wanted to talk to me or be my friend. I didn't value myself. I didn't even know my worth because suddenly I was nothing because stigma told me that bipolar now rules the roost and I'm a nobody. And maybe I'm going to turn evil. I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know anything. No one told me anything. Now I know better, though. I know that I deserve respect, I deserve love, and I deserve understanding, just like any other normal person. And if you're a person, um, who can't offer me those things, then you just don't get access to me anymore. That's what that is about. Now, bipolar stigma is real, guys. It's really dangerous as well, and it can be deadly, directly or indirectly. But the good news is it can be challenged and it must be. And that's why this conference matters. Conversations like this, they spark a change, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. So tonight, we are going to be openly talking about stigma in the healthcare system, in relationships, in the workplace. I'm going to be joined by a panel of brilliant speakers with lived experience and experts working to create real change. We've also got a conversation coming up later. I'm really looking forward to this with Heston Blumenthal, the world-renowned chef, and ITM political correspondent Anushka Astana. I watch her on Peston. She's really good. I really like her. And they're having a powerful discussion that people with bipolar can and do thrive. Now, before we dive in and I introduce our CEO, our leader, as I call him, because I know he hates it when I say that. I love to big up Simon Kitchen, but yes, just a few bits of housekeeping. Now, if you're feeling unwell or overwhelmed, please reach out. Bipolar UK's support details should be on the screen. They also offer one-to-one peer support. We have an amazing e-community and free resources as well to help wherever you are in your journey. And if you'd like to support this work that Bipolar UK do, please consider donating tonight, because every contribution, it does really help to keep these services going. So wherever you are in the world and wherever you are in your own journey, thank you for being here. It does sound cheesy, but you really are not alone. We are here. In fact, thousands of people have signed up for this conference today. So even though it's virtual, there is still such a sense of community. And that's why it's one of the most important dates in my calendar in the entire year. I want you to know that you are not broken. And I want you to know that you are not less than. Absolutely not. Together, though, we can put a serious dent into bipolar stigma. So, shall we begin? Let's do it. Now, my first speaker is our leader, Simon Kitchen. He has been the CEO of Bipolar UK since 2018. And Simon's first experience of bipolar was in his late teens when he supported a friend who had the condition. His late brother-in-law, Kevin, also lived with the condition. So Simon has lived experience from a caregiver's perspective. I think he is a great person to lead this charity. Simon, thank you for having me once again. Over to you.
Thanks, Leah, and a massive shout out to your parents as well, who are dialing in. I'm sure they're feeling incredibly proud of you right now. And it's the beauty of virtual conferences that they can join us all the way from Grenada as well. So that's Grenada, sorry. So that's fantastic. Yeah, so I've been Chief Executive of Bipolar UK for just over 7 years. And every year feels like a really big year for the community, doesn't it? We seem to be taking strides forward all the time and dealing with very difficult issues, and then perhaps being able to fly a flag and to represent our community in the kind of public sphere, but obviously within the heart of government, but also in the wider world as well. So it's been a really busy year for the charity, and I'm really proud of what we've been able to achieve. The key thing is, as you're probably aware, Leah, there's been some changes in government over the last few months, and we've been doing lots of work with our public affairs team to do some campaigning to get our community mobilised, to be able to get in touch with their MPs and to be able to get them to represent their community living with bipolar. I'm really pleased that over the last 12 months, we've been able to meet with several ministers for the first time. So the Minister for Mental Health in England, also the one in Wales. And we've been able to get our very first commitment this year within a government within a health service to specialist treatment and diagnosis. So that's in Wales. So really pleased with that. And that wouldn't have happened without the amazing work of our community, and in particular, some of the representatives in Wales, in particular, an amazing woman called Jackie Dix, who's been really a powerful advocate for us there. So we live in hope. The world is a dark place at the moment. Lots of really bad stuff's happening. But by working together, we know that we can see positive change for people living with bipolar. So that change in Wales, we're hoping to see one day in England, and then Scotland and Northern Ireland, and then across the entire world. Really thrilled to be working with some amazing partners as well. So, and this conference is brought to you by PayPlan, who are debt advice company. So they work in partnership with us to be able to help people manage their money when they get themselves into difficult financial situations. This often happens for people living with bipolar because of some of the symptoms around overspending, particularly when people don't have a diagnosis and they're not aware of that. So I'm really, really honoured to be working with them. We've had a really big year for our services. Really pleased to say that we're back up now to over 90 support groups all across the country and online as well. So we're helping literally thousands of people. There's probably some, maybe not tonight. I think some of them will be dialing in today. So a big thank you to all of those hundreds of volunteers that run all of those groups. It's incredible that we ran hundreds, maybe over 1,000 sessions this year, group sessions. That's really brilliant. We've got over 13,000 members in our e-community, and that's growing every year by hundreds, if not thousands of members. People logging on at any one time. Anyone might be living with bipolar or someone affected, and you might be the middle of the night, it could be during the day, and you're feeling a bit low or a bit high. You want to speak to someone else with the condition, you just log on to our e-community, and there'll be someone there who's going through what you're going through. That's really powerful for us as a charity. We've got our research teams going from strength to strength. We've got a really big research partnership, which is now up and running with Cardiff University. I'm really proud that our Director of Research, Tanya Gergel's now been made a professor for incredible contributions for research into bipolar, really flying the flag around co-production as well, so that people with bipolar aren't just involved in studies, but also going out there and leading them as well, which is so important. This World Bipolar Day coming up is going to be our biggest yet, thanks to the amazing work of Rotary. Over 100 Rotary clubs all across the country are doing work. So you might see some down in your local community running street stalls, going out there, raising the flag for bipolar, raising awareness of the condition, and helping people to make positive change in their communities. And that's a big increase from last year as well. So they're growing year on year. So it's really wonderful that Rotary have been able to do that with us. Our app's still growing. We've got over 20,000 downloads in the last year. It's been downloaded almost 50,000 times. Again, that's a big shout out to Andrew, who's our incredible lived experience volunteer who's developed it. Thousands of people are using it every day at the moment, and that's a really good example of really taking the best skills of people living with bipolar and scaling it up and getting it out to helping them to help thousands of people living with the condition. This charity is about people with bipolar helping each other to manage the condition. And I think the app is one of the best examples of that. If you've used any of our services, please do take our survey. We've managed to get some really good help over the last year around our suicide preventions, the suicide prevention elements of our services. So do take our survey. I'm sure it's going to be put into the chat just to tell us what you think about them. We're not perfect, but we know we do the best that we can, and we really love your feedback in terms of what we're doing well and what we can improve, so we can continue to grow. We're kind of averaging at the moment, growing the number of people we help by about 8% year on year. So we'd love to be able to go further and faster as well with your help. So please do complete that survey. So what have we got coming up? Well, some big stuff for the bipolar community over the next year. We're going to be launching our Could It Be Bipolar campaign. We've been really lucky to get some amazing funding from a really generous philanthropist, and we're going to be scaling it up. So we're going to be reaching out hopefully to 7,000 or 8,000 people a month. We want to reach 80,000 a year to help people understand the symptoms. And this is really important because it takes 9.5 years to get a diagnosis. So if we can help people understand what bipolar is, what the symptoms are, then it means it will speed up their journey in terms of being able to get a diagnosis. And that's so critical to helping people live well. Also going to be running parliamentary events in Wales at the Synod, and also hopefully in Parliament as well. So if you're in Wales or in the UK, in England, we'd love to hear from you. There might be some spare places if you want to go to the Synod or to Parliament as well. We've also got a really exciting fundraising event coming up with the amazing James Wade, who's another one of our key ambassadors. Like Leah, someone who's succeeding in life, who's living with bipolar. He's one of the world's leading darts players, and he's going to be hosting an event in the summer. So do sign up to our newsletter, and you will see these wonderful opportunities coming up to get involved to help other people living with bipolar. And finally, a massive thank you to all of our donors. This year's going to be a difficult year for us. There's about £2,500 worth of NHS and Department of Health grants that are coming to an end. And we're also seeing having to pay an extra £20,000 a year on national insurance as well, which we weren't expecting to. So the only way we're able to provide our services is through our amazing community. So less than 1% of our funding now comes from the government, and everything else, 99%, comes from people who are affected by bipolar. So people watching tonight, people who are doing events for us, people who are doing runs for us, people who are donating small amounts of money. Some people are donating large amounts of money. Some people are leaving legacies for us. Some people are doing it in memory of close friends who have lost their life to bipolar. People who are living with bipolar who want to help other people. And that's the incredible thing about our charity. It's about bringing together people affected to help each other. And you don't have to be donating money. Giving time is really important as well. All of our incredible volunteers, we couldn't do it without you. And I think, as Leah said, it's like a lot of at the start, as part of her speech. People with bipolar feel lots of setbacks. Often the world feels like it's against us as a community, but it's incredible what we can achieve together. People with bipolar are already some of the most successful people in the world, and with a little bit of help, many more of them can be as well. So it's a great honor to be able to lead this charity and to be able to help turn that into a reality.